What does freedom mean to you?
My definition of freedom is
hope and opportunity.
Being able to get up in the morning and choose what I want to do with my day.
To look out for your family without having to look behind your shoulder.
a way to be able to talk in political terms, right, left, center, whatever you want.
But what happens when freedom is taken away?
Everything was taken over.
These people are fleeing a Marxist dictatorship.
All these people from Cuba came through there.
The Freedom Tower served as a beacon for hundreds of thousands.
The Freedom Tower was hope.
And it is the Statue of Liberty. It is the symbol of freedom.
It will always be this beacon of opportunity and hope.
There's something in the destiny of the building that made it some place that would be a beacon to people seeking out freedom.
And now, it's getting a new beginning. And here it is, the Freedom Tower standing tall in the Miami skyline tonight, a beacon of history, hope, and now it is finally reborn. Good evening, everybody. I'm Janine Stanwood in front of this spectacular building. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. We will be taking you inside. After years of anticipation and renovations, the Miami Freedom Tower is finally reopened. Built in 1925, the 17-story tower served as the headquarters to the Miami News. It was constructed to be an iconic building meant to impress in a striving new city. At one point, it was the tallest building in the South. Decades later, it would become a processing center for hundreds of thousands of Cubans who fled Fidel Castro's communist regime. That's when it became known as the Freedom Tower. The building had been in and out of disrepair for years, but today it gained a new life. Our team has been witnessing history today, from the new exhibitions inside to the hundreds of people who gathered for this historic event. The next chapter begins right now.
3, 2, 1!
With pomp and circumstance. Witnessed by a who's who of South Florida, the Miami Freedom Tower is reopening.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America.
The ceremony started with the Pledge of Allegiance, a prayer.
We gather before you today in gratitude and hope as we reopen the doors of this cherished place.
And ran on café con leche, of course.
And I stand here with so many of us to feel that I feel, that we were born into an amazing generation of creative and courageous and loving men and women.
Maybe you know this place as the former home to the Miami News. Maybe you remember it as a refuge for hundreds of thousands of Cubans starting new lives. But you haven't seen it like this.
So take in the moment.
I'm so moved to be here. 100 years of freedom celebrated, and God willing, long into the future.
I think actually that it's amazing that it happened. I really wasn't sure if it was going to become a reality, because it's a heavy lift. A lot of donations, a lot of support from government, from everyone. But it finally got done. It's definitely a message that transcends not just Miami, but the whole country.
It's just so emotional. I mean, for me at least, the whole day has been very emotional, because you do think of your grandparents, of your parents, of their struggles, of our struggles when we're young, and what it really means to have freedom.
After decades of uncertainty, Miami-Dade College took over the tower 20 years ago, after being in the care of the Moss and Martin families in attendance this day, and these renovations are like nothing before.
The opportunity came to donate the tower, so we decided that it was better in the public hands, and Miami-Dade College has done a tremendous job.
My aunt brought me here, and they gave me my first coat because it was so cold and I didn't have a coat. And then to be able to give this to Miami-Dade College, it has been unbelievable.
It's been 2 years in the making. Did you think that it would be this good?
Yeah, Yeah, you always think like it's going to be phenomenal, but it's magic. It is magic. And to have the privilege to tell our story and to tell it in this beautiful, iconic, and this gift to Miami.
The 2-year, multi-million-dollar project transforming this century-old building into a living, breathing icon once again.
Since 1925, it's gone through numerous renovations by numerous owners. So kind of going through the history and looking at old drawings and blueprints, trying to figure out, what to expect. These buildings, these walls, they speak. And sometimes when you start demolition, you can start to understand what they're trying to say.
The main entrance on Biscayne Boulevard is back open. You can see they've rolled out the red carpet. Let's take a look inside. So this is the main entryway, and I want you to look up at these ceilings. They have been totally restored. But do you see that chandelier? Here's the interesting thing. This is actually a replica of the original, built based on photographs.
The historic architects that were hired under us, Richard Heisenbottle and his team, went through a lot of effort and research to find that the chandelier that was once built, they replicated.
And so many other features have been meticulously restored. Take a look at this. You see that frieze? That actually depicts a printing press. Right under there, you can see it says Miami Daily News and Metropolis, 1925, 100 years ago. The elevators, they've been fully restored. The electrical has been upgraded. Let's go upstairs. So we are ascending to the David and Christina Martin Historic Lobby. This place is really spectacular. And check this out. Look at these floor tiles. These are actually replicas of the original. And right over here, this is one of 6 replica towers representing the different phases of life of the Freedom Tower.
We came from Cuba and we came here as refugio, and we would get vaccinated here.
When you come through these doors again and you see this restored, you think what?
I think of freedom, I think of hope, I think of liberty.
4 exhibitions for now are celebrating the tower's history, the people who came through here, and South Florida's future.
I will bring my daughters here, so my daughters are half Cuban. My husband is a Cuban heritage, so it's with a lot of pride and gratitude and hope that I will bring my daughters here so that they can experience this living monument.
When you walk in a space like this, there's very few buildings in Miami specifically that have this kind of feeling to it, and that they can appreciate the artisans that built this in 1925 and those that revived it today.
Oh, it's amazing. It's like a moment, like they said. You never forget it.
We stand here today to promise you that those sacrifices will stay here, present forever. Thank you, and God bless each of you.
We promised we would bring you inside live, and here we are. This is that historic grand lobby. Everything has been restored, from the columns to the ceilings, even this incredible mural. And I'm going to bring in my colleague Janice Fernandez, because as we've been talking about all day, it's not just about the building, it's the people who came through here. You had the opportunity to really talk to a lot of people who were very emotional.
Absolutely, and it was such an exciting day today. It all started off with a lot of pomp and circumstance, but it was emotional. And so for the people who really got to walk through those exhibits and not only hear other people's stories, but their own stories, it was something that was very heartfelt. And really the common theme for every single person who walked in here was that community feeling of knowing that this was the place where their American dream started.
Every detail woven into the museum, the real stories and faces of Libertad.
Obviously, growing up in Miami, the Cuban experience was such a big part of our lives, but it just still feels emotional to see it.
Cristina Ley Rodriguez, emotional walking through the exhibits for the very first time, showing us a piece donated by her father.
Oh, what says Maristas? Yeah, because that was the school that he went to.
She tells us her dad was studying medicine in Cuba when he decided to leave, knowing it was necessary for a better life. This piece meaningful, as it was one of only a few items he was able to take with him when he left the island.
If you come with so few things, the meaning of objects is so powerful.
Maria Corge showed us a picture of her as a baby being held by her mother, That picture now on display at the Freedom Tower.
It's very emotional, but as it is for everyone else that's here attending today.
She came to Miami at just 2 years old, but remembers the stories told by her family of how much the Freedom Tower helped her family assimilate. She's grateful that the history and stories of exiles are on display for all to see.
What a wonderful gift to be able to share all of these beautiful stories with everyone else. I mean, it's forever.
While the opening was by invitation only, this family came by the tower hoping to get inside.
1971.
Fidel Diaz showing us his dad's passport.
I just had to get him here because it's going to be 94.
And after telling his father's story, he was let in. Diaz says he was a little kid when he came, but is thankful for his parents' sacrifice, understanding now as an adult what it meant to give up everything.
Now, I appreciate that he did that effort for us, starting in a new country, with nothing.
Estamos muy feliz.
Maribel Gonzalez wearing a shirt with the all too familiar phrase, Patria y Vida, saying she's happy to see a place that represents all Cubans who fled the island in search for freedom.
Tanta gente que ha sufrido.
Remembering how many suffered to make it here, to get a chance to live the American life. The Freedom Tower is the immigrant story, and not just Cuban exiles, but all immigrants. Rosie Gordon-Wallace got to listen to her story of coming from Jamaica, which is now one of the many stories you can listen to while visiting.
Hard to put it into words because the narrative sometimes is so narrow, but today the narrative includes all of us immigrants.
The immigrant story, Janice, is everybody's story here in South Florida, and there were some tears in the house.
There were so many tears, and you're so right about the immigrant story. One thing that I love about the Freedom Tower is that obviously it talks about the Cuban immigrant story, but it also talks about all the immigrant communities, as we heard from Rosie right there in that piece. And it's about sharing those stories because there are so many commonalities. And I have to tell you, the first exhibit we walked into, within 5 seconds, someone was crying. It was that emotional for everybody who walked through, and even some people who were maybe a little bit too shy to go on camera, but it really was so emotional. I think more emotional than I was expecting, because there was joy involved in seeing this, but there was a struggle for the people who came here.
This was a place of safe harbor, of refuge, and I know you and I have both talked to people who, when they left Cuba, they really thought they were coming back.
Yeah, they were wondering, is this temporary? Is this just for now? Are we ever going to go back home? The crazy part about this, so many never went home, not even to visit. So we're talking about people who left with nothing, maybe just the clothes on their backs, and that's all they had. And so they came to this country with hopes, with dreams. But I think the beautiful part about the story that we saw so much of in that piece, and we'll continue to see, is they made it happen. They prospered, and they continue to prosper.
Absolutely. And not only do they prosper here in South Florida, but around the world. Your family is part of that story. We're going to hear from them coming up. Janice, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
So coming up here today, it was a who's who of celebrities and icons, big names. We caught up with the celebrities who helped mark this historic reopening. Plus, it's been called the Statue of Liberty of the South. We take you inside the Freedom Tower's rich history and the role it played in shaping South Florida. We are back with a live look from Sky 10 over the Miami Freedom Tower. Today, hundreds were here for a star-studded reopening. Celebrities, local icons, special guests, they were all here to celebrate this amazing reopening. In fact, the Freedom Tower has really been the backdrop to so many memorable events. This interactive display actually shows it. You can touch it, and you can actually see that it depicts some of the things, some of the memorable events that have happened here at the Freedom Tower, like protests and other events that have happened. Our Christian De La Rosa, he was here for all of the hoopla. He has more.
Reporting to you from the Voices of Miami Expo inside the tower, and yes, a lot of Cuban celebrities here, not just to celebrate, but to recognize the role this place has played, not just in their success, but also in their lives.
Standing on the shoulders of those who chose freedom.
I have goosebumps.
Some of Miami's biggest Cuban-American artists here to mark this moment.
My mom and dad would never believe that kid that was there trying to get a piece of bread.
For so many, The reopening of the Freedom Tower pays tribute to the freedom this place gave them to create.
This is where everything started. Everybody landed in Miami with a dream, but had no idea where to start.
To me, a lot of memories. I mean, coming here outside, waiting for a piece of, cheese or anything.
For Emilio Estefan and so many others like him, he remembers how this iconic landmark fed his family and his dreams.
When you go through that, it's a beautiful thing to appreciate success.
I just want to cry. I mean, when I look at everything that I've been able to do, a little girl from Santiago de Cuba,
Spanish television icon Lili Estefan.
This is where our grandfathers, abuelas, abuelos, tías came for help, came for guidance. They didn't even know the language.
It's called the Freedom Tower.
Yes.
What does freedom mean to you?
Freedom means to being able to be who you are and telling the people that comes after you, the younger generations, that you are from one country, that it's in your heart forever.
Telenovela actor and singer Giancarlos Canela.
Seeing this place under construction for so long, it's a beautiful and accurate metaphor for our culture and our history, for our parents, the parents of our parents that came to construct, to build a better life for us, for my generation, and to see it now renovated, built out, and it be a place where we can come and honor that culture and honor that history. It's beautiful.
What's the message here, you think, for all?
Fight for your freedoms, always, and teach your kids about it and the history, where you come from.
We cannot forget our past. We cannot forget where we come from. We cannot forget why we have the luxuries that we have, because there were people like my parents, like the parents of my parents, like the very people that were at this very doorstep when this place opened its doors, that fought for a better future, that fought for us to be here, and I never take one single day for granted.
We think about the freedom these celebrities have had to express themselves, to create, hopefully for many more in generations to come. Back to you.
Christian, thank you so much. This tower, of course, has been a backdrop to so many memorable events, but this is also the place where Cubans have come and spread their culture and their flavor to the rest of South Florida and the world. Coffee, art. Tasting a little of the cheese. So good. Food. It's the flavor of Miami's culture. El sabor de la cultura.
Coffee is the Cuban excuse for shared time.
If you like your cafe with a view of the neighborhood, thank the Valls family, who came through the Freedom Tower and built the famed Versailles restaurant.
Salud.
Salud.
The success stories in this city are endless.
So the Ventanita, this sort of idea, this was your dad's?
Absolutely. He bought like 4 espresso machines and installed the first espresso machines, and that's where the Ventanita kind of was born. Just to see it through the years, little by little grow, it's an experience that few people have had.
Susie Battle's family brought to Miami their love of ice cream. She opened Azúcar.
My grandmother loved ice cream, and my grandmother made ice cream. So our love for ice cream and our love for everything Cuban are still part of our culture now.
Part of our culture now, the memorable and influential events with the Freedom Tower as the backdrop, championship parades, protests, and a presidential run.
I chose to make this announcement at the Freedom Tower because it is truly a symbol of our nation's identity as a land of opportunity.
I had State of the City there in the Great Hall of Miami's Freedom Tower. It was very meaningful for me personally. It's been part of significant events, not just historically, but in present-day Miami as well.
The tower has also been home to concerts, like that of the iconic Celia Cruz.
Por si acaso no regreso.
When Cruz died in 2003, her body rested beneath the vaulted ceilings inside, as thousands lined up outside for a glimpse.
we have more people here than actually if Elvis Presley had passed away.
We were standing in line for about 3.5 hours. I have no regrets.
Grammy Award winner Willie Chirino, a voice for exiles, has also performed. And his music inspires those even 90 miles away.
So many instances, so many people that come to me and say, I left Cuba because of you. So many.
We are a great example in America of a people in Miami, not just Cubans, but all kinds of different nationalities that rally around the American idea. The trauma that we were born out of, which was leaving our country of birth and having the Freedom Tower as sort of that beacon of hope and opportunity, it shaped us. You know, people ask me all the time, why has Miami succeeded when a lot of cities have failed? You know, I really think that our immigrant story is a big part of it.
The Freedom Tower has been reimagined to bring new generations here to enjoy the history, to understand what it's all about. So what are some of these exhibits all about? Coming up, we'll show you how they're bringing history to life. Welcome back. I'm Janine Stanwood inside the Miami Freedom Tower, and joining me is Amy Galpin, the chief curator. This exhibition is called what?
El Refugio in Context.
And so we are looking at replica suitcases. They're meant to evoke the memories of leaving your homeland.
Absolutely. They're vessels of memory, and within them they carry people's hopes and dreams.
Let's go into this room right now, because one of the things that we are seeing, at least in here, that are absolutely not replicas are some of these items right here, right? Talk about that.
Yes, this is a dress worn by Hortensia Soriano, a longtime resident of Miami, when she came from Cuba with her parents.
And she, of course, was she one of the Pedro Pan children?
She was not Pedro Pan.
Oh, she was not?
No,
okay.
But we do have a case dedicated to Pedro Pan children.
Talk about what we're seeing in here.
So you're seeing shirts, laundry bags, First Communion dress. These maracas were purchased by Guillermo Paz Vazquez's mother at the Havana airport. She gave them to him as a parting gift.
A parting gift, because so many of these children, they were unaccompanied. They came here by themselves.
Exactly.
So talking about Operation Pedro Pan, Peter Pan, I mean, if we come in here, you can see so many of these exhibitions, Amy, they're interactive, right?
Yes. They're meant to really engage the visitor in the research process. So here we have the Pedro Pan database, where we have hundreds of entries, and we are looking for more stories.
And so you can touch this screen, and you can really find a loved one in here.
Yes, absolutely. And family photos, quotes from our oral history project are all available through this interactive.
It's really a beautiful thing. I want to come in here because one of the exhibitions, at least inside these walls, really just evokes so many memories for so many people, and that is this. This is the arrivals at the Freedom Tower. I mean, look at the gold lettering, look at the linoleum flooring. I mean, this is down to what people saw.
Yes, we're so grateful to our colleagues at the Wolfson Archives and at the Cuban Heritage Collection that lent us photographs and video footage so we could recreate this powerful room.
And so people came into this room, this is where they got services, this is where they waited to see doctors?
Yes, often waiting for hours, long lines for medical services, resettlement services, as well as economic assistance.
A job board right there, in fact.
The Pisada de la Suerte.
So many people told us that one of the things that they remembered when they came here to the Freedom Tower was the food.
Yes.
The Spam, the cheese, and we're seeing some of these items here, right?
Absolutely. This is a box that carried cheese. One of our oral history participants gave it to us. It's an actual box that their family received right here at the Freedom Tower.
You know, just talk about the memories and talk about how so many of these things were donated. When people see these, they think what?
I think they're remembering a very difficult time in their lives, but also a sense of hope and opportunity that pervades the story of the Cuban Refugee Center.
Amy, thank you so much for just giving us a sneak peek at what's inside. We really appreciate it. You know, inside these walls, there are memories, there are stories, because it's not just about the building of the Freedom Tower, right? It's about the personal stories. So many people came here on this opening day, and they relived what they went through here at the Freedom Tower. And in fact, one of our colleagues, Janice Fernandez, is joining us again because she had the opportunity not only to talk to some of the people who were here today, but to speak to her own family. And Janice, for you, this was personal.
It was very personal and so fitting that in this exhibit where we can hear these stories, I get to share my family story. Now, growing up, my dad would always point out the Freedom Tower and say, this is where it started for your family. This is where we came to this country and we felt welcomed. And for my family and really all the families, it came down to one thing, and that was searching for freedom.
Like many Cuban exiles, the Freedom Tower holds special meaning for George and Rita Fernandez, or as I call them, Mom and Dad.
The Freedom Tower for all of us is hope, and it's freedom, and it's hope for the future.
Growing up, I heard stories of Cuba and what life was like there. Both my parents were born on the island. My mom is from Holguín, and my dad from a small town called Fomento, where he lived on a farm.
I had never seen a traffic light until I got here. So yeah, it's completely different. No, fortunately, when you're a child, you adapt very fast.
When things started to change in Cuba, they had one choice: leave and search for a better life.
And so that created an exodus of political asylum or exiles that otherwise would have never left our country.
My dad arrived on one of the many freedom flights. He already had family members in Miami, but it took 4 years for him and his parents to be approved to leave Cuba.
When we landed at a place that was called the Casa de la Libertad, which means the House of Freedom. And this is when families would reunite. And so I remember looking out the window in the plane, and I could see my family.
Then it was here, at the Freedom Tower, where life would truly restart.
The Cubans call it el refugio, which means a refuge. And basically there you would be, process all the paperwork, you would get some food, mostly we got some cheese, we got some peanut butter, which is kind of an interesting thing because Cubans don't. First experience with peanut butter. Nobody knew what that was.
Like, what is that? My mom's story was a little different. She actually arrived with my grandma before the freedom flights because my grandpa's life was in danger.
She, in other words, was fleeing also because your grandfather, my father, was a high-ranking officer in Cuba. And they wanted his head. There were no family members at all waiting for her. It was just herself and me as a baby. And I remember her saying, the hardest part for me was there was no Cuban coffee anywhere, anywhere.
The Freedom Tower wasn't even used as a processing center just yet, but a few years later, it became a frequent place that she and her family visited, looking for jobs on the bulletin board and receiving assistance in whichever way they could.
I remember the stairs going down the basement. I remember the columns. I remember the checkered floor. I remember the box with the cheese.
And do you remember how it tasted?
Very good.
Really?
I mean, at that point, you would take what they give you and you eat it and you like it and you love it and you just do it.
My family's story is by no means unique, but it's a part of my story. Stories my family has been adamant about passing down, making sure I understood exactly what it took to be here today.
Did you ever ask my grandparents, obviously Tata Chang, people Mamang, how hard they felt it was, or do you think they kind of put on brave faces?
They left their homes, they left everything, their possessions, their jewelry, everything, to come with nothing, and they had to build.
The history now on full display, something my parents believe is necessary to learn about what makes the Freedom Tower so distinct, but also what helped build Miami into the thriving multicultural city it is today.
People have to learn about their origins, and it's important to know history. So when you learn history, you learn from past mistakes.
Learning about my origins, but also understanding what it means to be an American, specifically an American born to Cuban exiles.
In America, if you have a dream, you're willing to work hard. It's certainly, there is the opportunity for prosper, and that's what Freedom Tower was. We felt welcome, we felt wanted, and we have to be thankful.
And it's this tower, standing tall in downtown, that symbolizes new beginnings, leading the way to a better life.
You know, you said, which I love, that the Freedom Tower represents hope, but as we're talking, I think it also, for me, represents bravery.
It's the Ellis Island of the South.
No,
That's what it was.
It really is.
The light.
Well, now I see where you get your work ethic and your love of cheese.
The love of cheese, right? Now it all makes sense.
That was really beautiful.
It was, and obviously I've heard the stories growing up, but when you're sitting there at that capacity, the cameras are on, and I really got to sit down, it was so interesting to see how my parents told their story. It wasn't just kind of telling us, and as kids, you know, you're thinking, okay, mom, dad, whatever, but really taking the time to listen. It just reminds me so much of how brave my family is, which I said in that piece. Of course, this represents freedom, but this really represents bravery for not just my family, but for all the exiles who came.
Well, your mom used the word hope, and even after leaving, you said they knew they probably weren't coming back. How do you still have hope in all of that?
I know, and it's amazing. I think about that so often because also thinking about they didn't speak the language, they had to start from scratch. My grandmother was a teacher in Cuba. Here she was a seamstress. My grandpa was an officer. Here he had to drive buses. It was so much going on, and you just think, how did you have hope in all of that? And what they say is it really came down to believing in the American dream and believing this was the land of opportunity, and they proved it, like so many did. They proved that with hard work and with determination, you could really accomplish anything.
Janice, thank you for sharing your story.
Floors of exhibits, and not just artwork, not just amazing artifacts, but things like oral histories of the people in this community. You see this, you hear it, you feel it. I'm Glenna Milberg. All of that when we come back.
Welcome back as we celebrate the reopening of the iconic Miami Freedom Tower, looking at it live as it shines brightly in this Miami skyline. But to really understand what this tower is today, we have to take you back in time. The Freedom Tower has lived many lives and is about to be reborn again. Its beginnings have always been rooted in freedom. A century ago, freedom of the press.
That was the peak of the great real estate boom. Tremendous speculation of real estate, tremendous building to accompany that speculation, tremendous population growth. It was a really exciting time.
In the mid-1920s, a former Ohio politician and media magnate named Jim Cox was lured to Miami, like so many others, looking for a slice of paradise.
Jim Cox, who was a very noted investor and newspaper person, bought the first newspaper in Miami Metropolis. He wanted a brand new complex for it. He wanted to really showcase this newspaper, and he wanted a grand place on a grand location.
That was the goal of then a governor who had run for president and wanted to come to Miami to start the first newspaper.
Enter prestigious architectural firm Schultz & Weaver, responsible for luxury landmarks like New York's Waldorf Astoria, the Biltmore Hotel in Coral Gables, and the Breakers in Palm Beach.
He wanted something that was a premier building in a city that was up and coming.
Construction began in 1924, and in 1925, the 289-foot tall masterpiece, inspired by the Giralda Tower in Spain, was complete.
For many years of its history, it was the tallest building in this area. It dominated the skyline.
And soon, home to journalists relentlessly bringing the news to South Florida. The Miami Daily News and Metropolis became the Miami News, delivering and printing papers for the Magic City.
Now, it wasn't a practical building. You put the windows up and the breeze flew in, pigeons came in, what have you, but it was beautiful looking.
Across the Florida Straits and
Another city was bustling, Havana, Cuba. By the 1950s, Havana and Miami served as each other's playgrounds.
Once air traffic really gained in popularity, that was certainly by the 50s, many people from Havana and elsewhere would come to Miami to shop. There were great bargains in terms of staying in hotels on Miami Beach in the summer.
But change was coming to Cuba.
Communism or Marxism is our idea.
1959. The Cuban Revolution and overthrow of Fulgencio Batista's dictatorship would soon send thousands fleeing Fidel Castro's communist rule. The destination was Miami.
When we came from Cuba, my mom and I, they only allowed us to bring one suitcase. They ripped up her PhD and told her, no, no te vas a llevar la educación. You're not going to take your education with you. And I go, what kind of statement is that?
The U.S. government implemented the Cuban Refugee Program, and with the Miami News recently vacating the tower, in 1962, the building would be transformed into the processing center for Cubans to receive assistance and start new lives. Gold lettering identified it simply as the Freedom Tower.
My parents called it El Refugio.
They were able to get health services, dental services. There was a job board that they could get a job. My mom and dad were processed there through the Freedom Tower, and then they helped to bring their brothers and sisters. This is 1965. I asked my dad later, who typed these letters? Where did you go? And they're like, oh, there's this lady in Southwest, and then we would pay her $40, and she would type what your mom had written. I was like, I know, because it says like to the State Department.
To have a place that made our lives easier in any way. You could get checked out by a doctor. They gave you blankets, clothes, and it was a beacon of hope for the new exile community.
Some walking through those ornate doors came as adults or with their families. Others received assistance after arriving alone as children through a clandestine program called Operation Peter Pan or Pedro Pan.
I was 14 when I left. They put me on a plane. We were taken care of by the church for the first year of my exile. But once my parents arrived, they took me out of the Pedro Pan organization. We were counting on the help of the U.S. government through the Freedom Tower. That's where we went to get our food.
Boxes of it. You'd be hard-pressed to find anyone who doesn't remember it.
There was the ever-popular big block of cheese.
Those big cheeses that would fascinate me because, you know, Cubans don't eat a lot of cheese, but if they're gonna give you free cheese, you take it.
There was a big box. They put powdered milk, Spam, powdered eggs.
And I would sit and watch the cheese dry out from the middle in a star pattern because we didn't eat the cheese.
My mother became an expert preparing dishes with Spam and combining and doing sandwiches with American cheese.
Cuban mothers became famous for being very creative in making recipes from this food.
Everybody's got an opinion on the cheese, right? There is so much more to come tonight. So many more things to see inside the Miami Freedom Tower. Our Glenna Milberg takes a closer look at some of the exhibits that are inside these doors. Welcome back, everybody. I'm Janine Stanwood. We were only able to show you some of the amazing exhibits inside the newly restored Miami Freedom Tower. So our Glenna Milberg has a closer look at some of the other things that you can see right here.
The exhibits in this building tell not just a story, but so many stories of what and who has been through the Freedom Tower. And there's a common theme to all of it: hope, freedom, and resilience.
We're going to tell the story of how this was the first skyscraper in Miami. It was the home of the Miami Daily News, and of course it was El Refugio. But they wanted it to speak to all people.
The universal human experience told through the mosaic of very specific stories: Cuban exile and the first Miami newspaper.
I think really what will speak to people's heart is the theme of freedom and opportunity, which is something everyone can relate to.
What a privilege to be walking the spaces with the man Miami-Dade College got to create the vision and master plan for all the exhibits.
These beautiful photos of the people of Miami today who have created new lives. That's something a lot of people say about Miami, is it's people who come searching for a new beginning, and that can be either by choice or not by choice. But you'll see business leaders, you'll see activists, you'll see musicians.
Not just see, but hear. You can listen to the stories of the people in the photos under each one. Some you know well, others you will. The exhibit, a present-day culmination of the history, heartache, and struggles unfolding on the other exhibit floors. And on this wall, a century-old copy of the Miami Daily News. And this is a tribute to the Miami News. This building was the headquarters. This room was the typesetting room. It works. Let's take the stairs. All new, too, opening so much more of this historic building for the exhibits.
This work is by Jose Beria, an artist born in Cuba.
He's local.
He is. He's based here in Miami.
Here, a look through a personal lens of displacement and belonging through the eyes of local and internationally renowned artists.
We're all impacted by memory and the lives that we've lived and how they shape each art of our present day.
The title of this exhibit comes right from this book by Maricea Vega. She, the author, her family was actually processed in the Freedom Tower when they came to Miami as Cuban exiles.
Back to the stairs. The World's Game, the FIFA Museum, celebrating soccer as the global game that unites people from everywhere.
When the team from FIFA thought about where their first permanent North American location would be, they really wanted to be in an iconic building.
14 minutes of the most iconic moments in soccer history. The surround sound makes your heart pound. This wall of jerseys come with stories about each country and team. A constellation of soccer balls, authentic and homemade, a testament to the universal sport that anyone can play, no matter their resources or lack thereof.
Where you had help when you needed it.
Next to 300 oral histories, the written history, the art and artifacts of how our daily doings have been documented and passed down through the millennia.
It's the jumping off point of thinking about the history of language, the history of recording information and documenting a culture, a society.
Many of the exhibits here are permanent, but then there are those that will be constantly updating or changing, and that ensures the Freedom Tower will always be a place to come and learn.
So really, it is just unbelievable how many exhibits there are here. And it kind of seems like a maze, but it's not. This is where Glenna was. This is the theater. Over here, this is the Kislak exhibition. You can see the lights are off now because we're sort of getting this VIP sneak peek inside. There are just so many things to see, not just the incredible architecture, but as Glenna said, some of these exhibitions. The question, of course, is how can you come and see it all? The Freedom Tower will be opening to the public soon. All of that information is coming up when we come right back. If you want to visit the Freedom Tower, here is what you need to know. We have all of the information right now on your screen. There will be preview tours on select days beginning this Friday. These tours are limited to 25 people. Tickets are $50 and include a glass of champagne and a branded gift. General admission begins on October 15th. Tickets will be $18. Children under 5 are free. The Freedom Tower is a reminder that this is not just about the past, it's about a look forward. Before we go, I want to go back to Sky 10, looking live at this incredible building as it shines brightly on the skyline of downtown Miami. History, by the way, is something that we carry forward. And before we go, we want to take you back to this unforgettable day. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
3, 2, 1.
To have a place that made our lives easier in any way.
There was a job board that they could get a job.
You could get checked out by a doctor. They gave you blankets, clothes.
We were counting on the help of the U.S. government through the Freedom Tower. That's where we went to get our food.
It was a beacon of hope for the new exile community.
Welcomed and helped to adjust to life in the United States and built lives of significance.
In America, if you have a dream, you're willing to work hard. It's certainly, there is the opportunity for prosper. And that's what Freedom Tower was. We felt welcome, we felt wanted.